We welcome in Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, the lead draft analyst. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at MoveTheSticks. NFL Network provides live coverage of the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine Thursday through Sunday. Coverage starts at 3 p.m. on Thursday and Friday and at 1 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. And you are busy. This is Christmas for you this time of year, Daniel Jeremiah. I appreciate you being here. I want to talk quarterbacks. I didn't see a couple weeks ago 4 possibly going in the top 15, now top 10 picks. Did you see this? When did it make its way out? And are those legit guys that are going to move that quick?
Well, I think it's a combination. You do have some legit dudes, especially. I mean, the top 3 are going. That's happening. That's not. I don't think that's up for debate. Now it's, do we get a 4th? Do we potentially get a 5th? And I think it's a couple different things. With Bo Nix has had his kind of sponsors throughout this process, teams that have liked him through the fall and into the spring. J.J. McCarthy's the one that's kind of come up lately because, as I've said, he's kind of like an acquired taste. When you watch Michigan and you're just passively watching him, you're like, what does this guy do? I mean, come on, they run the ball and they play defense, and he gets to go along for the ride. But then when you dig in, the more you watch, the more you like, and you see the things he can do. And so you have the players that warrant the conversation, and then you also have the number of teams that just happen to be in the QB market. And whether or not they absolutely don't have one, or whether or not they don't, they're not in love with one, like Daniel Jones with the Giants, or you've got, like the Kirk Cousins thing. Who could foresee that he was going to tear his Achilles and that maybe they could be a quarterback team? So, yeah, for the teams that don't need quarterbacks, they're loving this right now.
Right. The Colts are sitting at 15, and it feels like every draft there are, 10 to 12 players who have, like, true first-round grades, right? If there are 4 quarterbacks go off the board, then theoretically maybe that could push one of those guys down to the Colts at 15. But when you look at that kind of middle of the draft, where is the depth, where is the talent, what positions could be available to the Colts at 15? I know you had them taking Nate Wiggins, the corner out of Clemson, in your last mock.
Yeah, I think you could get a chance to be near the front of a couple runs. So, we'll see the pass rusher run will probably start a little bit before then. But I think the corner run where they're positioned, there's a good shot to be there on the corner run. And I'm fascinated, too, on, the tackles because it's so deep. There'll be quality players there. But to me, there's 3 elite pass rushers, and I think in a normal draft at pick 15, you're probably not going to see one of those guys. I think because the quarterbacks get pushed up, I think there's a chance you see one of those top 3 pass rushers. And then, the Bowers thing is kind of its own discussion just because of – the position and things of that sort. But he's, obviously one of the top 10 players in the draft.
Yeah, so let's have that Bowers discussion because you had him at 18 to the Bengals, but I believe he's in your top 10 on your big board. What about that position and the skill set that Brock Bowers has would lead him to be a top 10 player who maybe does not go in the top 10 of the draft?
Yeah, it's complicated, and a lot of it, it's layered. You've got the financial component where you're not getting much of a bargain because the number is $12 million is the franchise number for tight ends. So if I can go out and I look at my board and I'm trying to build my roster within the salary cap, and I have a receiver number that's $21 million, and then I've got a tight end number that's $12 million, I got a corner number that's $19-20 million, and I'm sitting there going, well, wait a second, I'm going to pay whoever I pick the exact amount of money. So if I pay the receiver, I just saved all this money. And if I pick the tight end, I'm almost paying top of the market dollars for a rookie. I'm not even getting the benefit of the rookie deal. That's part of it. That's not all of it. The other side of it is when you look at tight ends that have been picked high, the impact has not been huge. Kyle Pitts is a tough one because Kyle Pitts is as talented as any tight end I've ever evaluated.
Do teams pay attention to that? Do the teams
absolutely.
pay?
Yeah, I mean, and people will say this is the thing I find funny is that the pushback is, well, if you look at the best teams in the NFL, they all have great tight ends. So why would you not take why would you not take a tight end? I go, yeah, where did they get those tight ends? Not in the first round.
Yep.
Laporta wasn't a first-round pick last year.
No.
Day 2, day 3.
You can find those guys in day 2 and day 3. So that's kind of the other side of that argument.
Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network. Stay there. I heard you earlier talking about the depth of the wide receiver position, the group here in this draft. Are you getting starting quality guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th round of this draft? Is it that heavy at the wide receiver position?
I would say you get into the 4th round, I feel pretty good. I
Really?
think going beyond the 4th round, okay, maybe you're maybe rolling the dice a little bit, but it's a position that's the college game just continues to spit these guys out, man. It's every year.
You're a scout. Come on.
Yeah.
In a situation like Ballard's looking at, you got Anthony Richardson, offensive pieces
Yeah.
galore. Where are they? Then you're sitting there and you got a quality wide receiver, but you have Higgins going, for instance. Is there a possibility of it when you you make your draft, you say best available, or does Ballard say, no, I'm going after an offensive position here, my guy's there?
Yeah, I think to me it's the whole best player available or need, you know. And I've always laughed. I said every team they combine it. Every single team tries to find the best player available at a position of need. And if they don't match up, you get the heck out of there. You trade and say, okay, well, let me get back where I'm a little more comfortable making this decision. So that's when I think that Chris is like this, in terms of being flexible and creative. And I feel like this whole new generation of GMs is like this. It's why the draft has gotten more fun to broadcast, to be honest with you, because some of the old guard was strict and stringent of, we are picking 10, and we're going to pick 10, and we're going to spend all offseason studying the top 10 players. Whereas this younger generation, last year we saw Arizona move back and then come back up. Like you can maneuver around the board a little bit to try and find your value.
You've been in these rooms. You've studied how teams operate. When you have a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, and something Chris Ballard told us when he was on our podcast in November is that we know how to build around him, even though he started 4 games. With his specific skill set, does that change how you evaluate players, knowing who you're dropping into that offense with Anthony Richardson, or do you have to stick to kind of here are our parameters, regardless of who's playing quarterback for us?
You better build it around your quarterback. I mean, any smart team would do that. What does he do well? What complements him well? It was one of the things that I said about Tua when he went to the Dolphins was Tua played with a track team at Alabama. And so that it's about speed and space, and then let him be able to navigate around that. And that's, you look at what he was early in his career, then all of a sudden you have Waddle emerge, you trade for Tyreek Hill, and he looks like a different player because they properly built the team around the skill set of the quarterback. So, I'm curious with Anthony Richardson to see kind of what that looks like and what their vision is for him and how that will play around him. Because you could make an argument of, okay, we've got kind of a big bully at quarterback. Do we just try and just be a big team and then let him, kind of do his thing and run away from everybody and make plays? Or do we say, man, with his athleticism, if we can get a bunch of speed and we can create all this space and expand the defense, now look at all the room Anthony's going to have to operate. So I'm curious to see what their vision for him is with those surrounding pieces.
Follow him on Twitter X and Instagram at Move the Sticks, the best in the business, Daniel Jeremiah. What's going on? These guys aren't throwing. Some of these top guys aren't running right now. Do you see this as, in the next couple of years, the combine shifting gears a little bit with the elite?
Well, I think we've seen that. I did a study on it, and we'll probably talk about it on the broadcast of like the quarterbacks who have and haven't thrown. And I went into the process saying I'm going to be able to look at this and say, see, like last year C.J. Stroud threw, he put on a show, and he had a great rookie year. And I went back through and like over the last 10 years, and I'm like, okay, it's like 50-50. Like some of the top, like Joe Burrow's not throwing, and this guy is throwing, and it's like there's no correlation between whether or not you threw or didn't throw and what kind of success that you had. But to me, look, I've always said you're not going to hurt yourself. We understand you're throwing to guys you don't know who they are, what they're doing, and so I just want to see you move around, see the ball come out of your hand, and then those teams will get the opportunity. I was talking to an agent for one of these guys, and he said, look, I've got private workouts scheduled with every team picking in the top 10. Like he's going to throw 5 different times, one-on-one, running the routes they want to run with their receivers. Like what? And I'm like, okay, I get it. But it is an opportunity for these other guys that get to go out there and throw to kind of to show what they can do with the guys that don't have the 5 workouts already lined up.
What number combine is this for you?
So my first one was 2002.
2002.
That's a lot.
Golly. What's the best piece of advice you've ever given someone or received about the NFL Combine?
The best piece of advice I've given somebody or received. Well, I always, I tell guys this every year, players, to bring their notebooks to the interview room. And so, in other words, you'd be surprised how dumb some of the questions can be. But like, hey, how much do you love football? Scale of 1 to 10. Right. And everybody, I love football. I work harder than everybody else. And I tell these players, I'm like, look, you can say that, but what if you just reach down into your bag and say, here's the notes from this season that I took watching tape. And see this is how that's how much I care. Yeah. That's how much I love football right there. So that's the kind of stuff I like. I like trying to help those kids out with that stuff.
Great stuff. Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network. You're busy, obviously, with the coverage coming up at Thursday through Sunday. Follow them on Twitter, X, and Instagram at Move the Sticks. Last one for me, and I'll let you go. These owners around the NFL, sometimes they snatch somebody on TV, on air, right out of the booth, general managers, head coaches included. If someone taps on your shoulder, Jeremiah, you ready for a GM job?
The only GM job that I'm after right now is the Padres, and I think A.J. Preller hopefully has a better year and he
Fair
keeps
enough.
it. So that's the
Get a
only
good
one.
return for Juan Soto.
We got a lot of arms. We'll find out if they're any good.
We'll see. I'm a White Sox fan, so I can't even talk baseball right now.
Well, hey, thanks for Fernando, by the way.
You're welcome. You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Yeah, James Shields worked out great. Awesome.
Daniel Jeremiah right there from the NFL Network. Thanks so much.